Let us for a few moments withdraw our mind from all outside activities. Let us focus the mind on the indwelling spirit who is ever shining, ever blissful. Let us approach that divine light with great humility, reverence and devotion. Let us pray to the Divine Spirit for the welfare of the whole humanity. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Sthapakaya ca dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine Sthapakaya ca dharmasya sarvadharma Svarupine Avadara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namah Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Asato ma sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I offer my salutation to Sri Ramakrishna. Why did he come to this world? Out of infinite compassion. The Supreme Brahman descended on this earth in the form of Sri Ramakrishna to establish Dharma, to put Dharma on the right track. Dharma had been derailed. He came to set it right. He came to show the path of Upanishads, the mine of spiritual knowledge. The only way to get rid of sorrow and suffering. He practiced all religions. The purpose of practicing all these religions is to integrate all. It is foolishness to quarrel, to hate in the name of religion. Religion is a unifying force. Sri Ramakrishna came to establish it. To him we offer our salutations. Let us pray to him to lead us from this dreadful darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge. Let us get rid of this illusion. Let us get away from this unreality towards the real. Let us go away from death to immortality. Let us be freed from all afflictions and experience joy in peace and tranquility. Let there be peace in the whole universe. Let all the people be happy and peaceful. The peace chant of Amrita Bindu Upanishad. Om Bhadram Karnebhih Shrunuyama Devaः Bhadram Pashyemakshabhiryajatraः Sthirairangaistुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. May we hear what is auspicious with our ears. May we see with our eyes what is auspicious and good. May we enjoy the life allotted to us by the gods, offering to them the activities of strong limbs and body as a lifelong praise. May Indra of increasing glory bestow prosperity on us. May Pushan, the knower of all, bestow prosperity on us. May Tarkshya of unabstracted path bestow prosperity on us. May Brihaspati bestow prosperity on us. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. This Amrita Bindu Upanishad, it is a drop of nectar, combination of loftiness of sentiment with a directness of expression, a drop from the fountain of eternal life itself, potent to cure the manifold ills of samsara. This is the third class of this Upanishad. We have not yet come to the main topic. Just before entering deep into the subject, it is very necessary to have some preliminary knowledge or idea about certain things that frequently occur in the Upanishad. In the previous class, Brahman as the substratum of everything. All the activities in the creation are being carried out at his command. Not a blade of grass moves without his will. That is the truth. If we realize that, we are free. Secondly, the integral nature of the Supreme Reality as Parabrahman, the Absolute. Ishvara as the creative spirit. Hiranyagarbha as the world spirit. And finally as the world itself. Thirdly, Parabrahman assuming functional names as Viraj, Hiranyagarbha and Ishvara. The reality is 3 in 1. Fourthly, the nature of Supreme Brahman is beyond description. It is only to be experienced. These are the points which we briefed in the last class. This absolute Brahman is non-dual. All the Upanishads declare in unmistakable terms that it is one without a second. There is Brahman and Brahman only. It means it denies duality. This doesn't mean, however, that the Absolute is non-being. It means only that the Absolute is all-inclusive and nothing exists outside it. The Absolute is described in negative terms. In the words of Plotinus, we say what he is not, we cannot say what he is. What a beautiful statement. That is exactly Supreme Brahman. Acharya Shankara, the exponent of Advaita philosophy, adopts the method of neti neti, na iti, not this, not this. By continuously discriminating between the real and the unreal, rejecting all that is unreal, approaching towards the reality, one finally experiences the Absolute. You become face to face with the Absolute. That is the culmination of the experience, by realizing which you desire nothing. You are completely fulfilled, full of peace and bliss forever. Most fantastic state. The discipline of neti neti leads one to where Brahman is. This is clearly illustrated by Sri Ramakrishna through a beautiful parable. The king lives in the inmost room of the palace, which has 7 gates. Now a visitor comes with a companion to the palace to see the king. First he enters the first gate. As soon as he enters inside, he saw a lordly person with a long retinue surrounded on all sides by pomp and grandeur. The visitor asks his friend whether this is the king. No, says the friend with a smile. Then they went further, entered the second gate. and subsequently other gates also. When he passed through all these gates, he was just repeating the same question to his friend. He finds that the nearer he comes to the inmost part of the palace, the greater is the glory, pomp and grandeur. When he passes the seventh gate, he does not ask his companion whether it is a king at all. He stands speechless at the king's immeasurable glory. He realizes that he is face to face with the king. He has not the slightest doubt about it. That is exactly the experience we have when we realize Param Brahman. Swami Vivekananda, when he entered into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, he had that wonderful experience of realizing that absolute Brahman. He never wanted to come down from that level. When Sri Ramakrishna asked him, what does he want to do? Swamiji said, I want to merge myself in Nirvikalpa Samadhi forever. It is so much fascinating. Once you have that glimpse, you will never like to come back. That's the beauty of it. To say that the nature of Brahman cannot be defined does not mean that it has no essential nature of its own. We cannot define it by its accidental features, for they do not belong to its essence. There is nothing outside it. As no inquiry into its nature can be instituted without some description, its swarupa or essential nature is said to be sat or being, chit or consciousness, and ananda or bliss. So he is described by these three most significant words. These are different phrases for the same being. Self-being, self-consciousness, and self-delight are one. They are not different, they are all one and the same. It is absolute being in which there is no nothingness. It is absolute consciousness in which there is no non-consciousness. It is not simply nothing as Buddhists declare. No. It is not nothing. It is absolute bliss in which there is no suffering or negation of bliss at all. That is why the whole humanity is racing to have that experience. I mean the spiritual seekers. Those who are interested in the real religion, they should come to the path of Upanishads. There is no other way. Here you have got free access. You can reach any height in spiritual life. Depends upon your capability and temperament and practice. All suffering is due to a second, an obstacle. All delight arises from the realization of something withheld by the overcoming of obstacles, by the surpassing of the limit. It is this delight that overflows into creation, the self-expression of the Absolute. The creation of numberless universes is also traced to Brahman. All things that exist are what they are because of the nature of Brahman as Sat, Chit and Ananda. All things are forms of one immutable being, variable expressions of the invariable reality. Now, why should we aspire for the realization of the Brahman? That's a very important question. It is because we get everlasting bliss. What is the measure of that bliss? Nobody can fathom. One obtains limitless bliss on realizing Brahman. That is the experience of all the realized souls all over the world. A graphic description of bliss is given in Taittiriya Upanishad. Just to give us an idea how most sublime it is to have that highest experience of heavenly bliss. Most beautifully it is explained in Taittiriya Upanishad. Consider a young man, well-read, noble, intelligent, strong, healthy, ambitious, with all the wealth of the world at his command. Such a young man, call him 1 unit of human joy. You multiply it by 100 times. 100 times that human bliss equals the one measure of the bliss of human Gandharvas, and likewise of a great sage who is free from desires. There are other type of beings, little higher than human beings, who experience more happiness than what we do in this world. So 100 times of this human bliss is equal to one measure of the bliss of the human Gandharvas. At the same time, it equals the bliss of the spiritual aspirant who is on this spiritual path, who has completely eliminated all desires from the mind. Now 100 times that bliss of human Gandharvas equals the one measure of the bliss of divine Gandharvas, other special kind of species. This also equals that of a great sage who is free from desires. Again multiply 100 times that bliss of the divine Gandharvas. That equals one measure of the bliss of the fathers, what we call Pitru Devatas, in their paradise. This happiness also equals to the happiness of the spiritual seeker who is freed from all desires. 100 times that bliss of the fathers equals the one measure of the bliss of the Devas born in the heavens through the merit of their lawful works, and so also it equals the bliss of the spiritual seeker who is freed from desires. 100 times that bliss of the Devas equals the measure of the bliss of the Karma Devas. 100 times that bliss of the Karma Devas equals the one measure of bliss of the ruling gods. 100 times that bliss of the ruling gods equals one measure of the bliss of the Indra. 100 times that bliss of Indra equals one measure of the bliss of Brahaspati. 100 times that bliss of Brahaspati equals one measure of the bliss of Prajapati. 100 times that bliss of Prajapati equals one measure of the bliss of Brahman. And this bliss is equal to the bliss of the spiritual seeker who has eliminated all desires from the mind. He who is this Brahman in man and he who is that Brahman in the sun, both are one. So, we can imagine what infinite joy one gets. That is why when we see Sri Ramakrishna's picture, ecstatic posture. How beautiful it is, blissful place. A very divine smile, emanating joy, always cheerful. That is because of the experience of that supreme bliss. Verily, he who knows this truth overcomes the world. He transcends the physical sheath. He transcends the vital sheath. He transcends the mental sheath. He transcends the intellectual sheath. And he transcends the sheath of the ego. We have got so many sheaths, one inside the other. Deep inside there is the divine Brahman. He who knows the joy of Brahman, which words cannot express and the mind cannot reach, is free from any fear. He is not at all distressed by the thought. He rejects them both. Then only one becomes fully qualified to have that highest experience of Brahman. In Shvetashvara Upanishad, it is described that there is one God beside whom there is no second, who creates all the worlds and rules with his powers, and at the end of time rolls them up again. Its Sanskrit version is Eko hi rudro nadvitiyaya tasthurya imam lokani shata ishanibhi pratyang janas tishtati sanchuko chantakale samsrujya vishwa bhuvanani gopaha. He lives in all things and yet transcends them. He is the destroyer of the sins and sorrows of the devotees as well as the bestower of jnana and bliss on them. This is the meaning of Rudra. It also means he is the punisher of those who break his laws, physical, moral and spiritual. God as the indwelling self watches the deeds of beings, good as well as bad. The universal self is like the sun, who is the eye of the whole universe and is untouched by the defects of our vision. He is said to fill the whole world and yet remain beyond its confines. The distinction between Brahman in itself and Brahman in the universe, the transcendent beyond manifestation and the transcendent in manifestation, the indeterminate and the determinate, is not exclusive. The two are like two sides of one reality. The real is at the same time being realized. In Upanishads, we find frequently the names of Ishvara and Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha or Brahma is called Karya Brahma or effect Brahman. Ishvara is Karana Brahman or causal Brahman. Hiranyagarbha arises at every world beginning and is dissolved at every world ending. It is a position. Anybody can rise to that Hiranyagarbha level by his meritorious deeds. Ishvara is not subject to these changes. Ishvara is the eternal God who is not drawn into but directs the play of the worlds that rise and perish, and is himself existing transcendently from all eternity. We have four sides of the one reality coexisting. One, the transcendental universal being anterior to any concrete reality. Secondly, the causal principle of all differentiation. Thirdly, the innermost essence of the world, and fourthly, the manifest world. Now, we shall see what is Atman. So much for about Brahman. Now we come to Atman. What is it? What is it? A human being is composed of self and matter. The self is the Godhead within. The matter in us is in the form of our physical body, mind and intellect. Physical body is the equipment through which we perceive and act. Mind is the equipment to fill the whole mind and intellect. Physical body, in which our emotions play. Intellect is the equipment in which our discrimination functions. These three equipments are per se inert and insentient. The Godhead within is the life principle which enlivens the material components. It is a sentient principle which lends sentiency to the otherwise insentient matter layers. To give an example, suppose a child sees some potatoes boiling in a vessel. The potatoes are jumping and changing positions in the vessel. The burner below the vessel is not visible to the child. So the child thinks that those potatoes are playing merrily. The fact is that all this merriment is on account of the burner on which the vessel with water and potatoes is placed. Even so, the self. We see so much of activity because of the self inside. The life spark which gives life to the inert matter is the real self, which is called Atman in Sanskrit. Atman has got many meanings. It also means mind. But here I mean the self, the sentient principle in every being is called Atman. Atman is the principle of man's life, the soul that pervades his being, his breath, prana, his intellect, prajna, and transcends them. Atman is what remains when everything that is not the self is eliminated. In meditation, if you are able to concentrate fully on that self, which is in the form of light dwelling in our heart, if we just focus our mind on it for a long time without any interruption, without any desires coming in between, and without any fear, one will be able to realize that Atman. The Rig Veda speaks of the unborn part, Ajo Bhagaha. There is an unborn and so immortal element in man which is not to be confused with body, life, mind and intellect. When the soul leaves the body disintegrates, but the self remains. These are not the self that is body, mind, intellect, etc., but its forms, its external expressions. Our true self is a pure existence, self-aware, unconditioned by the forums of mind and intellect. When we cast the self free from all outward events, there arises from the inward depths an experience most wonderful, strange, and great. It is a miracle of self-knowledge, Atma-jnana. We should seriously inquire into the nature of our inward being. Who am I? How came this world? What is it? How came death and birth? We should seriously ponder over these questions. We should inquire within ourselves. Great will be the benefit we will derive from such inquiry. We have got living examples who did inquire that way and reached the highest state. Ramana Maharshi, a concrete example, who became an illumined saint. How did he reach that state? By probing deeply within himself. He did not begin to question others. He began to question himself. What is this? Am I this body? Am I this pranas? Am I this mind? Like that he was probing and probing deeply, more deeply, more deeply. Then finally he came across the final bliss, realizing his own true nature. His mind was deeply absorbed in long meditation about this self-inquiry, resulting in realization. He didn't want anything else. Of course, that is very important. If there is any small desire in the mind, it is enough to pull down the mind from any height it may be. So we will have to take all precautions to simply, mercilessly drive out all types of desires. I want nothing but Atman. I want nothing but Brahman. I want nothing but God. I want to realize that, come what may. If we have that strong determination, we are sure to reach the goal, not after passing away our body, even while living what we call Jivan Mukti, liberation while living. Acharya Shankara stresses this point very much. We can have that experience here and now. Why not we try? We are suffering because of ignorance, because of ajnana, lack of knowledge, lack of discrimination. We have no peace and happiness because of ignorance. We have lost our true identity for whatever reason it may be. We are ignorant of our real self. The real self has been obscured. Groping in darkness, we are harassed by the trials and tribulations of life. We suffer stress and strain. Innocently, we try to find the solution to our problems by readjusting our environments. We try to make good our losses by physical, mental, and intellectual changes. We can never succeed that way. The remedy lies in knowledge alone, in realizing our Supreme Self. No sooner does the light of knowledge dawn on us than we are instantly relieved of all the knocks and shocks of life. It is ignorance, therefore, that converts the kingdom of heaven into a veritable hell. We may employ all sorts of methods for removing the sufferings in this world. None of them will help us except the light of consciousness, the knowledge of self within. Upanishads show the way to self-realization. There are 4 states of experience. The experiencer of gross things is called Vaishvanara. The experiencer of the subtle is called Taijasa. The experiencer of the unmanifested objectivity is called Prajna. And the experiencer of the Turiya is the Supreme Self. Mandukya Upanishad has analyzed 4 modes of consciousness: waking, dream, deep sleep, and illumined consciousness, and declares that illumined consciousness is the basis of the other 3. On the objective side, we have the cosmos, Viraj, the world soul, Hiranyagarbha, the Supreme God, Ishvara, and the Absolute Brahman. Now what is Brahman as Atman? Narayana is the God in man who lives in constant association with Nara, human being. He is the immortal dwelling in the mortals. Now this is a very brief note of certain points that come up in the Upanishad. The Amrita Bindu Upanishad has got a very good meter. It can be very nicely chanted. I will give you some idea about chanting of this Amrita Bindu Upanishad. Today I will chant about 5 verses. Next Tuesday we shall come to the main topic. Manohid vividam proktam Shuddham cha shuddhameva cha. Manohid vividam proktam Shuddham cha shuddhameva cha. Ashuddham kama sankalpam Shuddham kama vivarjitam. Manayeva manushyanam Karanam bandhamokshayo. Manayeva manushyanam Karanam bandhamokshayo. Bandhaya vishaya sattam Muktam nirvishayam smrutam. Yato nirvishayasyasya Manaso muktirishyate. Yato nirvishayasyasya Manaso muktirishyate. Ato nirvishayam nityam manah karyam mumukshuna. Nirasta vishaya sangam sanniruddham manohridi. Nirasta vishaya sangam sanniruddham manohridi. Yada yatyatmano bhavam tada tat paramam padam. तावदेव निरोद्धव्यम् यावद्धृदि गतं क्षयम् तावदेव निरोद्धव्यम् यावद्धृदि गतं क्षयम् एतज्ज्ञान च ध्यानं च शेषो न्यायश्च विस्तरः। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम तत्सत्।